The Old School is brought to you by Ahart Solutions, which provides school surveys and applied research. More information at ahartsolutions.com.
Good morning. Welcome to the Old School Podcast, a podcast about the American education system and sundry. And to that end, we will deal with that today with my very good friend, Dr. Stephen Bourgeois. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Miller, how's it going over there?
It's going all right over here. How about there?
Life is good. I'm excited to get right into it today. What were we talking about again? I forgot entirely.
We're going to be talking about plane travel.
Oh, plane travel. Yeah.
So
that'll be an episode for sure.
it will be an episode, yes. Mainly because we thought about it because, well, as it happens, I am traveling to Germany.
Okay, I thought you were taking a more political spin and saying there are ICE agents in the airports now. But that wasn't the
Wherever, it doesn't matter.
So you're
You want ice, you don't want ice, who cares? So I'm just gonna
what the
I'm
heck
just gonna take the middle path, the middling path, like the Buddhists do.
made all the difference?
Two roads diverged in the Yellowwood. Sorry, I could not travel both. No, I'm going to Germany. You're going to Germany.
We've been before.
We have been
like
before.
we're getting the band back together.
A little bit. So details will be in the description below. But
Oh no. Let's talk about this. Why are you going to Germany, and why are you inviting me here out the air live to go with you? What's happening?
You're already slated. You know this. But no, we're going to Germany. As our dear listeners know, you and I have spent the vast majority of our career going to far-flung locations with teenagers against our better judgment. And so now I decided in my retirement, how much fun would it be to take adults? Because certainly they would be better.
And
So
teenagers, they scare easily, you know.
But so no, we're doing a trip in October, and the trip is cleverly titled "In the Footsteps of Luther." I didn't come up with this, but I will go ahead and take credit for it. But we're going to be visiting in October. We're going to be visiting Germany to visit the cities of Wittenberg, where Luther did one of his first port of calls as a monk in Wittenberg. As a monk, it's also where he tacked up his 95 theses to stoke debate about practices within the Catholic Church. Then we're going to Leipzig, where we will visit the churches where he has preached in, and also Leipzig will be one of a couple places where he and Bach intersect, although maybe a century and a half apart, but they do, and Bach will be kind of like a sub focus of the trip. Then after Leipzig, we'll travel to Erfurt, where Luther first went to university to study as a lawyer, but then later he will actually conduct his very first mass in Erfurt at the Augustine monastery there. And then we will continue to travel to Eisenach, site of the Wartburg Castle, where he was in hiding under the protection of his elector, Frederick III of Saxony, also known as Frederick the Wise. And then the last major port of call that we will travel to is Worms, where Luther has his famous showdown with the Catholic Church, where apocryphally Luther said, "Here I stand, I can do no other." And then after that, we travel to Frankfurt to check into the hotel at the airport. And then we fly back home the very next day into the nurturing arms of our friends and loved ones in the DFW area.
Quite a itinerary. I think the highlight is actually Eisenach, and the place where Luther was hiding and also translating the Bible. I think that's a pretty powerful moment to walk into that room.
You and I were both there, and it is something to behold and to think about what transpired. You think about the fact that the people that translated the King James Bible took a couple years to do, and Luther did it in only a couple of months. And so it's an extraordinary feat of linguistic ability, but also just the power that a person has once they set their mind to something. Luther certainly displayed that in Wartburg. So
And he didn't have AI or anything at his disposal. He,
he,
he did
he
like,
didn't have Google Translate. He didn't.
yeah, he did it yeah, I mean, you and I could back translate his version into English. Um, we should try that, but no digital tools, just the conviction that we can do it in a pen in the hand.
I wouldn't be confident of the product that at least I would produce. I think you would do better than I would, but
Get out of here. We both know the text. I mean, I probably know more King James than anything, but I'd probably translate it into King James English. That's what I would do.
a lot of these and thous and things of that nature.
Yeah, well, I might happen to have an Bible next to me, and I'd never look at it, of course.
I had King James right here.
Well, we're making light of this trip already, and we haven't even started yet. I think it's a great trip. And how many people who are Lutherans out there, or Protestants, or just interested in history, wouldn't want to take this trip to be there with a historian? And I mean, hell, I may hold court en Bach. In fact, we could
There
schedule.
you go.
Let's do this. And
Okay, let's hear it.
you reserve the church that has a piano, and I'll do a concert. You'll have me, the one of the main people in the group, do a concert of just Bach in a church setting. It could happen.
And I will sing the lyrics.
No, you're not singing. But we have friends in the eastern part of Germany who could probably make that happen. Probably in Erfurt. That would probably be the closest to where our friends are.
I don't know. Let's see. It's a
Yes,
it's a
don't start equivocating. You're getting this incredible. The value of proposition just went up. I don't know what you're charging for this thing, but the concert alone would.
less than I should.
People can
No,
see.
I mean, I will tell you from the historian point of view, the reason why I think people who know Luther from a kind of a religious standpoint, I think I understand him in one context. But the fact of the matter is, as an historian, I look at Luther as something quite more than that, because he wasn't just a theologian par excellence, but also he was an individual who nearly single-handedly changed the political, the economic structure of the day in that part of Germany, or what would be Germany. He also radically changed the notion of social mores within society. And as one historian said, that what Shakespeare is to English, Luther is to German. And so there's a linguistic feather in his cap that is quite seismic, quite large. And so when you're studying Luther, it's not just looking at him as a theologian, which of course is how most people come to him as benefactors of his legacy, but there's also more there to discover. So as an historian, that's where I come in. As a musician, trained, educated classical musician such as yourself, that's where some of the cross sections of Bach and what have you come in. But there's a lot here to unpack, to use the modern parlance. And so, I think it's certainly worth the time and the effort to make that trip.
So the connection between the two, and of course they're 200 years apart. That
Yes.
little thing, but Luther and Bach have a lot of common ground, and Bach was a Lutheran his entire career. But also, interestingly, Bach studied at the same Eisenach Latin school as Luther did.
Yeah. They definitely chewed some of the same dirt, as someone once said. And so because of that connection, I think there's a kind of a natural and need to kind of mix the two a little bit. So while the trip will primarily be about Luther, I don't think we could discuss Luther, but more importantly, I don't think we can discuss the places that we'll visit without also mentioning Bach as well.
And it's all the more reason for a concert. Come to think
There
of
you
it.
go.
Um,
So if we could string that together, then Bob's your uncle right there. So
not only that, I could get musicians, and I'm not kidding. I know people there. It could be a
okay, well,
little bit of chamber music in Erfurt. We'll put that on a little asterisk for the real cool people to go to.
yeah, it's like the kind of platinum level. You have to pay extra for that, but it's like platinum level.
Yeah. So what is this like? Just the two of us, and we're having a tour together? How many people are going to be taking part in this?
Well, I think max on this trip will be 25, but we'll be collecting names for those who might be interested in doing this, because the idea would be that if this is a success, which I can't
Oh,
imagine that it
yes.
won't be,
Yeah.
that we would do a second one next year. So,
Well, I think that we need to even now address the waiting list because there's going to be one. And people
yeah.
should probably look at the link that we're going to have in here and consider it. They can, maybe this might be an opportunity for people to reach out to you directly um, as well. Who knows? Or they
Mhm.
can leave messages through our podcast. But
Yeah.
a lot of the people who have taken the time to listen to us month after month, year after year, might get a kick out of traveling with us and say that we're not these disembodied voices, but we walk around and we're just as funny, if not more, in person.
I would say definitely more in person.
I think so. Um, yeah. So this, I mean, initially it was your trip, but I've kind of hijacked it, and that's now the old school goes on the road.
That's what we're going to call it. I think we're going to change the name. I think the
Yeah,
Footsteps of Luther was a dumb idea to begin with. I think.
yeah. I don't know Martin Luther, and he still owes me money. What the hell?
I've
Wow.
never seen him a day in my life. So, so no, we'll put the link below if you're interested. Please consider that. But yeah, there you go. So, but the topic here, it came to me based upon, came to us based upon a story that was in the news. Southwest Airlines has made some news of late because they got rid of their free for all seat assignments and they've now, done,
I love
the,
this. I always ended
what's
up in the
that?
middle because I wasn't assertive enough.
But they changed that to now they're just like everybody else and they have assigned seats,
Good. Thank goodness. I hated that.
Well, I mean, I think some people kinda liked it though. It's like, it's
Uh,
reminiscent of the freewheeling early days of flight. They didn't have necessary assigned seats. You just get on the plane, find a seat, sit down, and, Bob's your uncle. But one of the issue so that's like one issue, and that has more to do with the new direction that Southwest is going in. But there's another issue, and it had to do with a person of size, um, taking up 2 seats and being charged for 2 seats. Now, as a person of size, no matter whether I've lost weight of recent years or not, I'm still somewhat of size. I'm kind of torn about this. I understand the sensitivity of the fact that someone being bigger and therefore requiring more room, an airplane is not your best friend. But at the same time, you are taking up 2 seats. That's one seat that the airline company can't sell, and
right.
so it would make sense that you'd have to pay something. I don't know if it's the full price or maybe like a reduced price or whatever the case may be, but it would seem like you should pay something. And I think the argument is, at least from the plaintiff, is the idea that they should not be charged for it. And people are, of course, everyone seems to wake up every morning desperately in search of something to be outraged about. And there have been a lot of people that have kind of taken up the banner of this particular issue. But I can't be totally unsympathetic towards the airline company. I think they're kind of in a no-win situation. They either get the abuse of online outrage and vitriol, or they lose money.
Um, yeah, it's a sensitive topic. I think,
It is, yes.
but they have those little things where you put your carry-on bag in to test how big they are.
Yeah,
I'm not proposing that a person get there, but maybe if they aren't able to use the belt as it's initially designed, that
yeah.
no, I don't. It's a tough one because it does. The person next to them is suddenly getting a quarter of a seat instead of a full seat.
Yeah.
And it may be a safety issue, and it's certainly not fun unless you're friends with the person. I mean, when you and I travel, it's just, you have a I'll sit next to you and we're comfortable. Hell, we've traveled together for years, and
Yeah.
I don't even notice it, but maybe it's different with two men sitting next to each other than someone who's relatively small and
Yeah.
feels like we have no room at all. I don't know. I basically said both sides about 3 times on that, but I yeah, I kind of sympathize with the airline. I don't know how somebody could sue them for that, but then would people travel knowing they're going to be paying double um,
Yeah,
for
it's not the idea of paying double is it doesn't seem it seems excessive, but at the same time, I don't know how you contrive the correct price that wouldn't outrage somebody. And so,
it?
I mean, from the airline company's point of view, it's one of those things where, you know, you're gonna you're gonna take it in the short somewhere. It's just a question of where and how bad it's gonna be. But it seems like it's an unfair expectation. It's like when, Bill Burr, the comedian, um, talked about, I think it was Bill Burr, talked about McDonald's. McDonald's starting to have salads. And he said that the moment McDonald's started offering salads, they officially took blame for the fact that people were overweight because they've been eating McDonald's this whole time. I don't, if Southwest Airlines says, okay, we're going to give you the seat for free, or we're going to give you the seat for a very reduced cost, it's like they're taking on the responsibility of fixing this problem when it's not really them that created the problem. And I understand there's some people who are big because of their own choices. There's some people that are big because of choices that are beyond their ability to control. But I just don't think it's the airline's job to solve that problem.
Okay, so I'm missing the ask then. I mean, is the person proposing that some poor soul sit in the middle um, without?
No,
Are they saying they need to give them 2 seats?
give them 2 seats. It's a question of both seats and that they would not be charged for the second seat.
Well, maybe they can split the difference and pay for half a seat because
Yeah,
it's
I
one
mean,
person getting food and all the other stuff.
yeah.
But then everybody's happy, and the airline is gritting their teeth, and the person is gritting their teeth, maybe inspiring them to lose a little bit of weight to get that extra money. But I think that's a good compromise. I should be a judge, Judge
Okay.
Bourgeois.
Why don't you put yourself out there, to the, online comments to
Oh,
see what they think?
well, is this a current case or has it been resolved?
To my knowledge, it has not been resolved yet. To my knowledge, it's a continuing case.
Well, there are 3 options then, right?
Sure.
Everybody grins and bears it, or
Mm,
they pay for somebody pays for the seat. Yes.
yeah.
Um, Up until now, it's just been kind of everybody grin and bear it, and
Yeah,
so
and this is not
it's
and
like,
this is also not just, you can extrapolate this to also include not just people of size, but also, in a kind of an overweight sense, but also people who are just bigger people. I mean, if you are 6'8" and weigh 350 and look like a Greek goddess, you're still gonna have a problem getting into those seats, and so you run the risk of having the same particular issue, where you're gonna have to either pay more, pay double, or whatever the case may be.
well, that's different. But I mean, planes aren't built for people with long legs.
Yeah, it won't no. I mean, you're gonna have to fork over the price for a business or a first class ticket.
That's it. So let's get even more sensitive. What about babies? Should somebody have to pay for a baby? Or should they have to pay extra if the baby cries?
Well, it's my as I understand it, up to, like, 2, I think it's 2 years old, the baby can sit in your lap,
Is that really
and
safe?
they're
They're
huh?
just kinda flying around there? The
Oh, yeah, I mean,
turbulence.
what else? A
Yeah,
baby's not gonna take a seat, but I think past a certain point, the child has to have their own seat.
okay, but what about the crying problem? Because that has ruined many a flight, particularly when you're trying to sleep, but actually anytime you're in a
Are you
enclosed
talking
place.
crying by babies or adults?
Well, the baby's crying and the parent or everybody else's blood pressure is going up. I bet heart attacks have been caused, or at least
Oh, come on.
correlationally, they're associated with baby. The blood pressure I mean, do you think your blood pressure is going to go down when you have a little baby yelling next to you?
You would think as a father, you would have a better sense of
Oh,
this.
it's really one of the hardest things. You're in a vulnerable
I
position. You're caring about your kid. You're worrying about everybody. It's hard. I feel the pain of everybody. But yeah,
here's my attitude about crying babies on a plane.
yeah.
You should never, ever, ever apologize for a baby.
Okay.
If someone can't handle the fact that a baby's crying, tough. Babies cry. What are you going to do? I mean, it's someone
Well, some
getting
people can't
worked up.
handle it. I mean, there was like this short story by Hemingway where they were on a boat or something. Here's how badly I remember what I was assigned in college. But eventually, the Indian on the boat, I think it was an Indian,
What the
just
hell are you talking about?
he cut his own throat because he couldn't stand it anymore. So,
Well,
just
I mean,
like
if
the
someone
crying with a
if
baby.
someone wants to flay themselves open, I mean, there's not much you can do about that on a plane.
Oh,
But it just seems like something. It's like getting upset at storms. This storm
it's
is
very
really
good.
loud.
That's
I
an
mean,
act of
it's
nature.
loud. What are you gonna do?
Well, like if it happens, say you're in a church, maybe a wedding or something,
Okay.
should somebody take the kid out into the cry room, or just sit in there and let the kid cry his or her lungs out in the with all the other parishioners?
Okay, that's a bad analogy. One,
It isn't.
because
It isn't, 'cause they could go to the
it's
back of the plane.
yeah, but you can't go, you can't leave the plane though.
They need a cry room in the plane in the back. It
It's
could be a
called the
nice place.
bathroom. You're gonna
Yeah,
assign someone to the bathroom?
yeah, take him to the bathroom. Just
You're
get him out of there. I mean, it's
you're an idiot.
stressful for the
What's wrong
rest
with
of us.
you?
Everybody's with me on this, Ross.
No, no one's with you.
I mean,
I I
you
I
sit there
tell you,
quietly. You wait for people to sit down, and I don't care if somebody, you know, big or little or whatever sits next to me, but if it's a baby, then I'm like, "Okay, how's this gonna go? How long do I have before the screaming starts?" I feel like, Jeff Goldblum in that dinosaur movie. Yeah. It's all great now, then the screaming starts.
to me, I mean, I feel more badly for the parents
Yeah, no,
of the child. And so,
no,
but at the same time, you don't apologize for a kid. If anyone else has a problem with it, screw them.
call the flag.
That's my
Just don't
opinion.
you drive, you get them in the car and take an extra little time and you drive where you're going. You have planes, trains, automobiles. Pick anything that's not a plane.
So we're so the this all of this to introduce our topic today, which has to do with plane travel.
Yes,
Last week we talked about fears, and certainly one fear that people have is of planes, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. But I'm curious, what was your very first plane ride, and what was your experience leading up to it and during it? What would you consider it a wholly positive or negative or what?
strangely enough, I didn't fly at all until I think I was even maybe out of high school.
Hmm.
Yeah, living in Oregon, and I think my very first flight, sounds strange, but I had already, a degree or 2 under my belt, and I was flying to Germany. That was my first flight, and I flew by myself, and it was, I remember that. So, boy, I had 8
Did
years.
you have like a flight attendant with you to kind of help you through the airport?
No, but I remember the experience, and at that point, I was big on having playlists, and I made a little cassette tape of the theme song from The Right Stuff, about the Mercury astronauts, and so,
Sure.
as we were starting to speed up down the runway, I had that on my headphones, and I played it loudly, and I listened to The Right Stuff as my very first, maiden voyage, and I thought it was really exciting, just how smooth it was, and then we're off the ground. I felt like my feet were just sort of floating, and, Yeah, it was terrifying, is what it was. But the music did help. I pictured that I was either um, John Glenn was one, but actually, who was the other one? The test pilot. Um,
I'm not
who's
sure.
Oh, here we go again. Me, Chuck Yeager. I was
Yes.
also
Mm.
picturing myself being Chuck Yeager, and so I had the the stewardess refer to me as Mr. Yeager during the full.
First of all, they're not called stewardesses anymore. They're called flight attendants.
They were back then. This was like in
Yeah.
1988.
So you were scared leading up to your first flight.
I was terrified of heights, so I thought, why wouldn't I be afraid of flying?
So
Um,
so
no, I didn't. I
you
didn't
took
like
you,
it. I was pretty much spooked, and landing was even worse. I don't know. I don't like taking off. I don't like landing, and I don't like flying.
anything in between.
Yeah, I've gotten better, but at first, yeah, it wasn't great.
My first plane ride was filled with anxiety, not so much because I was flying, and I actually don't really think that my mind was occupied with the notion of flying for the first time because my very first flight was leaving Baltimore to go to South Carolina to go to boot camp at Paris Island.
I thought you were
And
going to say you flew all the way to wherever you were near outside of Iraq, kind of
no, no,
waiting.
no, no, no.
This is South
No.
Carolina.
So my flight, I was more concerned with where I was going than the mechanical wonders that I was surrounded by and whether that they would hold for the entire trip or not. So as far as like flying, I mean that my first flight was I really wasn't thinking about the flight. So it's kind of an odd thing because I think most people if they're taking their first flight, they're thinking all nothing but the flight.
You were thinking
I
about
had other things
boot
in
camp
mind.
in the world and eventually being in Kuwait City. That's what I was
Yes.
thinking
Well, Kuwait City wasn't immediately on my radar when I signed up back
of.
in '86, but
Oh, really? So that wasn't okay. So you just happened to be uh, one of the team when they.
yeah.
So that would have been quite a interesting surprise when you didn't necessarily sign on for that, but I guess you did. You
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
probably
in
wanted some.
theory,
I mean, you wanted a little action, didn't you? I mean, you just want to kind of ride it out.
I don't know if I wanted action. I think I assumed there would be action, but the
Yeah.
Iraq thing didn't happen until the end of my enlistment. So I think
Really?
that, like, the last year
Really? Okay.
yeah, the last year I was in is
I
when it
missed that.
happened. It's
I missed that part of the story.
well, no, I mean, I went in, I enlisted in '86. I
Mhm.
went into boot camp in '87,
Wow.
and then I was scheduled to get out, in '91, I think. I ended up extending, for 6 months, to try out maybe another job in the military,
Hmm.
but that last year, the my last year of my original enlistment is when I was in the Middle East, and so, part of me thought, "Holy crap, I got mostly through my enlistment without having to have anyone shoot at me, and now I'm going off into a combat zone."
Right.
And so I think, at the time, and this is a little bit off topic, but I mean, I think at the time I was in my mind, I was thinking, well, okay, finally I get to use all this mess that I've been training for the last 3 years or so. But
Okay.
but no, but no, I mean, when you're going to boot camp, you're not thinking about any of that stuff. You're just thinking about the fact that you're going to boot camp. I mean, the thing was is that before I left on the flight, I would talk to guys who had been to boot camp, and I would ask them, "So what's it like?" Because you desperately want to have some idea of what you're walking into.
Yeah.
And I think that we all agree afterwards that to say as little as possible, where we
Yeah.
say, "So what was it like?" You had to be there. I can't. It's hard to describe. And you're like, "Ah." So and so I had that going through my head on my
Yeah.
first flight. That's why I don't think I was thinking much about my first flight.
Okay. So you're a step or two ahead of yourself at that point. Um, but we talked a little bit about fears and heights and all that, and but over time, your fear of flying. I mean, we all have fear. It's just a continuum, but it kind of goes up and down. And I know mine does too. But you've had some rough landings and flights.
Well, I think it's, nowadays, I guess you could say I have an adult onset fear of flying, but
Yeah.
it's not like a gripping one. It's not like my near pathological fear of heights now that I'm dealing with anxiety attacks that we talked about in the last episode. But yeah, I think I had one flight that was really, really, really bad, and it was a flight from. I'm not bragging, but it was a flight from Frankfurt to Paris, and we were on a very small plane, Lufthansa plane, the kind of plane that you envision leaving a red line across a map, like on a movie somewhere, with the twin propellers or something like that. But the problem was, I remember we squared up on the runway to take off, and all in Frankfurt, and all I see are these black skies in front of me. And I remember looking at it going, surely we're not flying into that, are we? I mean, it looked horrible. And then we take off, and then within about 10 minutes, we're in it. And then for about the next 30 minutes, we are experiencing every bit of that black cloud that I saw at the front of the runway. And I mean, there's like lightning all around the cabin of the airplane. The plane drops several times. There's like people behind me praying the rosary. I've got this old French woman next to me, and I remember telling her at the time, look at the flight attendants. They're not nervous. I said, just kind of understand that, this is probably not as bad as we're experiencing it. But it's hard to have that attitude when everyone around you looks like they're going through their last will and testament or going through their final rites or what have you. And so it was such a traumatic 30 minutes that afterwards, even after we had cleared and the rest of the flight was without events, without incident, even then, you still worry about it. And if turbulence is very bad, you know, I start thinking about it. So a lot of my adult set onset of fear of flying has more to do with, depending on how much I think about it. If I don't think about it, if I can block it out, then I'm fine.
Oh, it's better not to think because we have not developed the natural fear that we should because we don't really know the reality of us plunging through the air at a real fast speed at a ridiculous height. I mean, we should be terrified of anything close to that, but we were able to think about it more theoretically and just concentrate on the space. Oh, thank
Hmm.
you. I'll have a drink. Yes.
Hmm.
And, but then you're hurtling through space and time. Um, the only tough one I had was San Francisco. I don't know if I told you the story, but you've flown into San Francisco. You go over the bay. It's kind of
Well,
beautiful.
that was a shocking one too, because right as we were about to land,
Yeah,
apparently somebody was in the runway. We had to do it. We jerked upwards
yeah. That
right before we
apparently
landed.
that happens a lot because that's sort of what we did. Were we you and I together on that? I don't think so. I think I did this on my.
It's when I was coming back from Oregon.
Were you by yourself or with me? You were by.
I can't remember. Maybe we were together.
Okay, because we're like telling the same story. I think it was because it looks
So
like
you're
it.
saying that's your worst incident?
Well, no, no, because I'll tell the story and you tell me if you remember this. You First of all, you see the edge of that runway, right by the water, and you wonder, are we going to make it over? Because it looks like they're cutting it really close. And then as
It's like Boston Logan because you
yeah,
fly over water coming into Logan. It's the same
yeah.
thing.
But then we were about to land. I don't know if we touched down. I don't think so. But because yeah, there was something in another plane there crossing it, and so it had to climb up it. It was climbing up so slowly that what's happening here? Are we going to even make it up? I think you and I maybe looked at each other. Now I'm putting you in the story. Uh, and then it circled around and everything was fine the second time. The same.
Yeah,
Right.
so we must have been on the same flight then.
Okay. So the reason that's even a story is that about a week or a month afterwards, some pilot from not from here, but from another country, not used to doing international flights, did that same landing and smashed right into the base of that, didn't even get to the runway. And,
Right.
and it actually hit the back of the aircraft. And so those are the people who, I mean, I think people died in that,
Yes.
but I think that happened after what we did.
Well, and it happened recently at LaGuardia. That was that no, sir, that
Yeah,
Air
yeah. Well,
Canada
that's what
flight.
happened too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he ran into a fire truck or some sort of, truck that was on the runway. It had been initially given the clearance, and then so, yeah, I mean, you can I think the one thing that makes fear of flying bad is that you can certainly find plenty of stories to
Oh,
confirm your fears.
yeah. So this is how you sell a trip to Germany, Ross.
If
Uh,
we make it there, we're gonna have a great time, and we're gonna
is this American Airlines that we're flying, by the way? Because I get
it's either
points.
American or Lufthansa. I prefer Lufthansa, and I think it's gonna be Lufthansa we're
I
flying.
prefer American rep because I get points on that, and if it is Lufthansa, I'm gonna check. We're gonna need to change that one. But you're right, Lufthansa is nicer than anything, and their food is really good, and it's just a kind of classy experience.
So let's go into that. Let's next talk about what we like best about flying and what we like least about flying. Let's start with the positive. Let's be different. We're more known for our curmudgeon personalities, but let's start on the positive. And well, I am okay. Uh, what do you like best about flying?
Um, I like flying alone. Nothing against the group that we're about to have, but there's a beautiful anonymity when you're walking through the airport and you get to the gate whenever you want to. There's no question about it. I'm gonna go get a drink. I'm gonna go eat, and you make all these decisions, and it's great. I'm gonna get there real early and read, or I'm gonna just kind of walk around. So I like the anonymity when you're traveling alone. That's always enjoyable. Um,
Okay.
there's a rhythm to it, and I get really calm, surprisingly, going through security. Just get in this sort of zen-like state, nice to everybody. I'm not gonna I'm not excitable at all. It's just very relaxing. So that part of it, yeah, anonymity. I like the moment sitting in there. Once you're in and you know who's gonna sit next to you, you're in the world and everybody's kind of getting seated and you're just sort of relaxing at that point. I like reading. I get some really good reading or thinking. Sometimes I'll just type on my phone um, or write in a notebook, but I do a lot of business thinking, kind of strategizing, and you have nothing but concentration. And so I enjoy that part. I don't usually fall asleep, but I get a lot of reading done. And it's just pleasant. They bring you a nice cup of coffee. Then you slow everything down mentally. So okay, I'm going to open up these things that I want the trip to get over. So I'm going to take my time opening this cream. Take my
Mm.
time. That's fine. That's what I'm doing right now. I think I'll get up and go to the bathroom. I'll sit by them, and that's part. And so you're using time for you. I'll take a little walk around the cabin and so forth. And so that part. I mean, there are parts that I don't like that are probably easier to say, but
Well, we'll
everything
we'll
up.
get to that. We'll get to that
Yeah,
next. But
yeah. But you get the idea. There's a rhythm to it that I do enjoy.
I think for me, it is like you, it is more comfortable not to be responsible for anybody,
Right. Right.
family,
Group
group, whatever the case may be. And
students.
that's no
Yeah.
knock on our it's no knock on our future group who no doubt will be filled with intellectuals and curious people and wonderful people to talk to and what have you. But there is something that's quite liberating in the same way that driving by yourself down a highway
Mhm.
can be freeing. I think there's something quite freeing about flying. It certainly can be. I like I I like the kind of their attempt, the airline's attempts to try to make this like you're in a cafe somewhere and you're just
Yeah.
being there's attempts to try to make it as calm and as soothing as possible. They don't want anyone freaking out or what have you. I do like you. I do enjoy the kind of the machinations of the flight. The moving of food and even though I don't eat on planes anymore, but just the idea of this kind of rhythm, this kind of routine that exists, and Yeah, I think that that's like the gist of it. I used to be solely a person that wanted to have the window seat because I loved the idea of looking out a window. And I even in a building, I prefer to be in a room where there's a window because I just like looking out a window. And so for a flight, I used to love the idea of just being there on the plane and watching us, move away from the ground, watching us getting close to the ground, hopefully not in a plunging state, but just kind of a nice, gentle
Oh,
descent.
yeah, that's okay.
Nowadays, I do strictly aisle, mainly because I don't want to climb over people to go to the bathroom or do whatever. But I do enjoy the art of flying.
I have some travel tips here, Miller. This is just how I like,
Okay.
because I don't like any conflict or any worry, and that's the thing. So I would rather check a bag, take a little bit more time, and that way when I'm walking around the airport, hands free, I may have one little backpack or something that is not large at all, just could go under the seat. So when
Mhm.
I walk onto the plane, I have a book, I have a water bottle, and that's it. And so I'll put and I get the thin water bottles so they fit in there, take my book. I'm not trying to fight for the overhead space, I never use it, and so that
Mm.
I take that worry off the plate, let everybody else worry. I'm glad to help anybody lift their bags, it's always a good interaction, um, but then I don't really wanna talk to anybody ever, particularly in a plane, and so immediately, I'm setting the table by turning on the light and reading immediately. It's strategic, and I don't want a conversation at all. I've had them, and usually, I mean, yeah. I'd rather be talking with Hermann Hesse or Thomas Mann or Friedrich Nietzsche, but not the person next to me.
I would say in general, I'm like that too, although to say that is also to discount some of the great conversations that I've had, and I've had a few, not all the time. Certainly, I wouldn't even say often, but I have had a couple of great conversations, and so while in general I prefer not to interact much um, with the people around me, I've still had some good conversations. So. What would you say is the things outside of your fear of flying?
Oh, it's not that bad anymore. I'm in a good space. I'm one with the universe. That's what my dad always
Okay.
said. So I've kind of given up already. I don't expect to make it back.
Okay, so
Pleasantly surprised if we make
besides your
it.
nihilism, what would you say are the things that you dislike the most about flying?
Um, it really comes down to the last 20 minutes. It's not the landing, and the landing's kind of fun, unless it's really rough, and then you kind of curse a little bit. But it's just that wait that annoys me. I don't like when people stand up, and then it's claustrophobic for no reason. And it's not speeding anybody along. Just sit in your freaking chair, don't move until your row's up, and then stand and get your bag and go. But the people kinda standing up, positioning themselves, and I don't like when people try to kinda sneak forward a little bit. They're not really saving any time, but it gets people mad. I just want everybody to be seated. Don't s and I used to be one who would stand and kinda reach for my bag, get everything ready to go, and then realizing that's actually stressing me out and other people.
Yeah.
So that part, I lose the zen-like state, and I leave a little bit annoyed because people have cut in front of me, but I just like the idea of resting there, and then it doesn't take but a fraction of a second to open things up and grab your bag, and everybody would be happier. So that's the part that it kinda goes south. I wish they had more rules about that. I mentioned, kids and screaming and all of that, but you see a lot of those terrible videos about people misbehaving on flights. I think people are incredibly friendly and incredibly relaxed and nice 99% of the time, and I really like the flight attendants for the most part. They have formality, which is something that I like and we need in this
Mhm.
world. So no complaints except for the end part, of the flight.
I would say that other, flyers are my biggest, dislike, but I've not had any major. I've had one issue, and it was flying from Baltimore to Dallas Fort Worth, and it wasn't a full flight, and so the I was in a little section of 3 seats, and I was sitting on the aisle, and this young man, he must have been like 18, 19. I think his seat was the middle seat. But once they closed the door and there was no one else coming on, he just moved over to the window seat.
Okay, that's good.
And then before we actually took off, the flight attendants were going around like counting and like it's just like verifying people on their manifest, the itinerary. And she asked the young man, she goes, "Is that your seat?" And he said, "Well, no, my seat's the middle seat." And she started to make a deal about him moving back to the middle seat so she can count and and he started to get belligerent and he started, and the flight attendant, I will say, wasn't helping matters. She was being pretty
Awesome.
demanding in her tone and in her demeanor, what have you. And I finally he was starting to throw out the F bomb, do all this other stuff. And I finally turned to him and I said, "Listen, just do what she tells you, move to the middle seat. Once she's done, then you can go back to a window seat and settle down for the flight. Stop doing this." And the thing is that I understand that my size, my demeanor, my look, it does tend to have an effect. I'm used to dealing with teenagers, and that's what this kid looked like he was. And he stopped talking and he moved back to where he's supposed to go. Then the lady left, and then he moved back. But the lady herself, I think, caused some of the problems as well. But that's really been my only major issue.
That's pretty light,
My
that's pretty light compared to what we see on these videos. People,
Well, yeah, the stuff on the videos, I mean, it's usually totally without context or
yeah,
explanation or anything like that, so
yeah,
it's hard to say, but I think the thing that I dislike the most about the flight is the feeling of being hemmed in,
yeah.
and that's one of the reasons you joke, but it's one of the reasons why I spend a lot of my time on a flight walking around. And so I walk around. I walk back to where the flight attendants are hanging out. They don't really want to see me there, but they don't say anything.
Eh,
And then I just walk around like I just do laps around the
It's
the
like a
section of the
faculty
cabin.
faculty meeting for 2 or 3 hours. There's Ross. You never sat for more than 10 or 20 minutes, and you're walking around. You'd stay over here, but I remember our international flights. Yeah, you're doing laps basically, doing the rounds.
And so, well, I mean, it's the only thing I can do to keep myself from going stir crazy a little bit. I need to get up, and that's another reason for having the aisle seat. Is that more than just having to go to the bathroom, you don't want to have to climb over 2 people. It allows me to get up and move around as much as I like without causing a disruption to anybody else.
That's good. That's good of you. Now I never recounted, I think, how I would freak out our students on flights, and I still do this to this day. Um, sometimes I don't want to read, and so it doesn't matter if it's a flight to Melbourne. I did this to Melbourne once. That's a long flight.
Yes.
Where I didn't read. I certainly never watched the TV or any. I don't like any of that stuff. They have movies or I never do that. I'm not in a million years, and I don't want to look at any screen. And so I just sit there. I mean, I'll leave my eyes open or close them. Usually, I'm just kind of staring forward. And the students I used to travel with, we used to travel with, would say, here, Burgess. What are you doing? They have all this media and whatever. I said, I'm sitting here. Uh, when the flight's over, I'll get off the flight. And they say, wait a minute. It really messed with their worldview, their perception. And I said, well, yeah, time goes by much slower when you're not doing anything, but I want to experience that. And alone with my thoughts, and I'm perfectly happy. But I don't need to have some input. I'm happy as I need to be right now. I'm just going to be sitting here. And they got a little bit nervous. They couldn't understand it.
Trying to figure out whether you're a psychopath or not, but
Yeah, but I mean, it's really fun to play with time because I mean, particularly if you're going to Australia or something, it really slows down and just experiencing that. is something that I mean, I guess you could do that anytime during the if you had the but there's something, I mean, I would call it, the kids call that flexing today. That's a
Yeah.
flex. Wow. You have that kind of control, you can just sit there. But yeah, I can do that.
Well, I'm not gonna forego the entertainment value. If there's something I wanna watch, I'll definitely take the opportunity to watch it. A lot of times, though, I'll have headphones and I'll just put on one of the music
Mm.
options. I'll put on some jazz and just kinda close my eyes and, and so it's not necessarily to watch movies, although I do that sometimes, but it's also to just listen to music, and so it's an element of it that I actually enjoy. But I do think there's something to the idea of trying to embrace that which is inherently a bad
Mhm.
thing, and whiling away 10 hours on a plane is certainly not a good thing, and so there's something about embracing it,
Yeah.
as the Buddhists say, look upon the difficulties as a friend, and, the idea of turning something negative into potentially something positive, there's something to be said for that. But your experiences have not all been positive. You said that there was a negative moment that was the worst. Was it the San Francisco thing or was it something
Yeah.
else?
No, that was it. So I think maybe we
Okay.
said, just kind of, I remember glancing at somebody, I guess it was you. Um, so that was it. I mean, the positive things, I've written surveys, for my business just
Okay.
on my phone, and those become, I mean, one of our products, the Virtuous Motivation Survey, much of that I wrote on a plane, the items, then I collaborated with my co-author, but it was, and even a record, a CD, a recording that I wrote again with a co-author, but I did a lot of the music, but I wrote some lyrics that became part of the final CD, just sitting in the plane writing lyrics. So there's been some productivity there. I wrote a lot of my not a lot, but portions of my dissertation. It's one of the techniques I give people is rather than typing, which if they have writer's block, that's maybe not the thing to do. But take out a notebook and write by hand, and just sort of free write. And so a lot of actual usable text. So it's a great time to be productive. It's kind of the equivalent of being at Starbucks in a way. There's a little stuff going on, but if once you lock in, you have nothing else to do. I mean, that's the beauty of it. You're trapped, and so your mind kind of gives in. There's no need to procrastinate because you have nothing better to do.
Do you find you're talking about the formality of the flight attendants and the
Mhm.
crew and how much you connect with that. In the same degree, does it turn you off the informality in which people take airline flights?
Mhm.
Because we used to have a thing, and we've talked about it maybe briefly on this podcast, but you started it and I continued it. And that was the idea that when we took students overseas, they were to wear business dress, business casual, maybe
A blazer,
a
dress.
blazer or something. Yeah, a tie, what have you. And I, I, I remember how many times kids would try to negotiate what that would mean.
Mhm.
And they would say, what if we got on the," like, they were the first ones to think about this. What if we got on the plane, dressed up, but then once the plane took off, we went to the bathroom, changed into some sweats, and then before we landed, I said at that point, the nice outfit becomes a costume. It doesn't have any meaning. You might as well have not have gone on the plane or off the plane with it. It has to do with why we're going in the first place. This is not a vacation. This is an attempt at a cultural education. I said, on the flight back, you can dress how you want to. And unfortunately, I'd have kids like in
Oh,
big fuzzy slippers and, just like, what the hell are you doing? What's wrong with you?
yeah,
Wearing,
that's a bad, because I used to make them wear both directions, and somehow when we tried that, it didn't work out well because also the kids got kinda overconfident after being these travelers, and they get that way
Mm,
towards the
yeah.
end, like, "Ah, I know what I'm doing," and we lose our authority towards the end. Um, and
They rejected your authority.
yeah, that's what but yeah, I like to overdress a little bit, not all the time. I mean, sometimes I'll go for comfort. but more often than not, I'll wear jeans and a blazer at least, just to be a little bit more dignified. I like to wear a travel hat. Um,
Like a
I'm
fedora like they did back in the 50s?
I'm bringing the hat back. Absolutely. But
Did
there's
you
also
also smoke on flights or
no, that's absurd if you think about it. That wasn't that long ago. They had non, I mean, how can you have a section, you know, as if one row ahead there's no smoke happening. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But that's how it started, and it took incredibly, I mean, probably in the early 80s before they outlawed it, you know.
So, I mean, so as far as flight goes, did anything external ever affect your flying? I know some people didn't fly for a while after 9/11.
Oh,
I know some people didn't fly for a while after COVID hit or what have you. Did any of that stuff really impact your decision to fly or not, or was the issues that you had with flying solely the in-flight experience?
well, there's sort of a calculation, do you drive if it's a 5 hour drive, or you do take a 2 hour flight with all the extra time. So I would think about that. But but I think about my personal health a lot. Um,
Mhm.
and those of us who have certain conditions are more prone to getting sick on flights. So I do think about it a little bit, and so I will, depending on the season, maybe mask up, just in case you do anything you can. But um, I think in general, just flying less, because when you're in the cold and flu season of the fall, you're going to get sick. When you fly, there's just too much floating around there. So it's
But planes have one of the best filtration systems and air circulation systems of anything that you could find yourself on. So, I mean, if
be
there's
that
going to
as
be
it
an
may,
opportunity,
Sorry, Herr Miller, but it's not as safe as my office here in my house. Where the but I have gotten sick from flying more often than not if it's in the fall. So you can take your
you don't think
filtration
that because
system, and I don't think it works. I don't trust.
you don't think because it's fall that perhaps you were going to get sick anyway, and it was just
No,
as likely you got sick of something outside the plane than on the plane?
I've gone years without being sick. I actually ended up finally getting COVID from flying. That was like a year ago, and I thought I was going to be the only one who never got COVID. But there are people out there who still haven't gotten it, and I lasted, and it really bothered me. I thought I shouldn't.
You wanted that chip to hold over people's heads.
Yeah, yeah,
See, staying in your house works, folks. Just don't leave the house.
that's right. I thought it was our patriotic duty, and I mean that.
Nothing really on the outside has ever deterred me. Um, I flew the November after 9/11,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a major route, so it wasn't crowded anyway, but it really wasn't crowded. I think
Mhm.
on the flight back, there may have been 10 people on that plane. And, of course, there was a horrible incident on the flight, or no, well, actually before the flight took off, because this young man, the last person on our plane was this young gentleman who looked to be of Middle Eastern descent. And prior to his coming on board the plane, there was rather this jocular kind of an environment because everyone thought it was kind of cool. They had their own section of the plane. They had like 10 rows to themselves or what have you. And then while everyone's sitting there joking, having a good time, getting ready for the flight, this young man came on and just everyone stopped talking. And they watched that poor fellow go all the way to his seat. And then halfway through the flight, the poor kid had to go to the bathroom. And so as soon as he stood up, everyone just kinda stopped and watched this kid all the way to the bathroom and then all the way back to his seat, and
It's
he must have
terrible.
felt
It's
it
terrible.
is terrible, it is
It was too
terrible.
soon, but yeah.
But no, but I
Yeah,
and I think
the
that was
fact
part of
that
the thing.
yeah,
It was just a couple months after
yeah.
9/11, and
No,
so
I mean, yeah, but it's,
but and then COVID, I flew right after, flights started going again, and again, it wasn't a very full flight. Um but it made it kind of more enjoyable. So it didn't really impact me that much.
Well, whatever happens, there's going to be a flight in October of 2026, right? Early October. What are the
Early
dates?
October, flying from here to Frankfurt, from Dallas Fort Worth to Frankfurt, and then on to Berlin, and then the flight back will be a direct flight from Frankfurt back to Dallas Fort Worth.
Wait a minute.
And so it's going to be from the 12th through the 22nd of October.
Okay. 12. That's
And like I
great.
said, flight information and trip information rather is going to be in the description below.
It's really exciting because normally you don't fly back with the group. When we travel together, you go on to Greece or something, and let's have Steve take it back. Okay. You're actually going to come back this time.
I'm actually going to come back. Yeah. So
Oh,
unless something comes up.
yeah, I figure. Now I know why you invited me.
Well, the thing about traveling with adults is you don't necessarily need to kind of watch over them. They're on their own,
That's
so
going to be great because I never like to stay in hotels with kids. I did it a little bit, and we have to kind of patrol the halls. You don't get a lot of sleep. It's just stupid, you know.
right.
Homestays, it's you're risking a lot in some ways, but you're also keeping your time. Uh,
It's easier for the student leader.
but the parents are going to probably develop after about 3 days little cliques with each other, start, being mean to people, and this person's complaining about that person, and they'll come right to us, right? With it, they'll come. You'll see them coming from a distance. So they'll look. They're about to complain. You know it. They know it. And here it comes. And then you have to either intervene or not. And they don't realize that we've taken hundreds of kids, with better stories, you know, over the years. So we've seen it all.
We've certainly seen a lot, that's for sure. So, but if you don't mind traveling under that context, please check out the link below. And I guess we are done for the day. It's
Oh,
Sunday. It's baseball. It's a nice day outside. Beautiful day for a baseball game. And there we go. It's time to go. I shall say adieu, Herr Doctor Bourgeois.
we just in here, Miller.